We always hear about what's in the news, but have you ever stopped to think about how we see it? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the way news is actually built to see how the structure itself shapes what we think before we even read the first sentence.
You know that feeling, right? You open a news website and it's just a wall of information, a constant flood of headlines and updates, all screaming for your attention. You get hit with everything all at once. First, you've got U.S. news, big national stories. And then boom, world events, something happening thousands of miles away. Politics, of course, that never-ending cycle of who said what.
Crime reports from your backyard to across the country. Money Watch, telling you what's happening with the economy.
And Health Watch with the latest studies you should know about. It's a lot, and it just keeps coming. So that feeling, that initial blast of chaos, let's call that the wall of news. And today, we're going to take that wall apart, brick by brick, just by looking at how one single event gets reported.
Because every now and then, a story is so huge, it just cuts through all that noise. For our case study, we're diving into source material from CBS News that covered a massive security incident right in Washington, D.C.
And this is the headline. I mean, that grabs you, right? It's dramatic, it's serious, and it immediately tells you this is a major breaking story. And right there, you have the core elements. The president, a huge, high-profile event, and a direct, serious threat. This is exactly the kind of story that's going to be plastered all over that wall of news. Okay, so we've got our anchor story. Now let's hit the brakes for a second. We're going to really dissect this thing, piece by piece, to understand the basic facts just as they were reported.
All right, let's just lay out the basics. When a story like this drops, the first reports are all about the who, what, and where. So, based on that initial reporting, what do we actually know happened? Notice how quickly the key players are identified. We've got the suspect, a guy named Cole Allen. We have a key witness, CBS correspondent Wijian Jiang, who was right there on stage. And we have the official response, represented here by the U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro.
Then, this critical piece of the puzzle comes out, a manifesto. Now, according to the source, this wasn't some public post. It was an email sent to his family right before the event. That detail adds a whole other layer of premeditation to the story. And you can see the official response follows a very clear logical playbook. Step 1, secure the president. Step 2, neutralize the threat. Step 3, address the public. And finally, Step 4, begin the legal process. Each of these becomes its own little chapter in the larger story.
Okay, so we have the facts. But this is where it gets really fascinating. This single event isn't just presented as one story. Nope. Depending on where you find it on that news homepage, it has a bunch of different faces.
Just look at this. These are two headlines from the same news source about the exact same event. Under the crime category, the focus is pure, straightforward legal process, charges announced. But hop over to the politics section, and the angle shifts completely to the president's personal reaction. Trump wasn't worried. It's the same incident, but they are telling two very different stories.
So what this shows us is that the story isn't just living in one little box. It's fragmented. It's a crime story. It's a politics story. It's a local DC shooting story. And it's a national US story. Each of those categories frames it just a little bit differently, right? It emphasizes a different element to grab the attention of different readers.
And that's really the core idea here. The category a story gets filed under and the headline it's given, they aren't just simple labels. They are really powerful tools that completely shape our first impression of what happened, and, maybe more importantly, why it matters.
So let's zoom back out. What does all this mean for us, the people trying to make sense of that wall of news? Well, it means we have to develop a new skill. The skill of reading between the headlines. You know what we've just been doing this whole time? That's called media literacy. It's not just about consuming information. It's about being able to analyze its structure and evaluate how it's all being presented to you.
So think of this as your new media literacy toolkit. Next time you're looking at the news, actively notice what category a story is in. Analyze the specific angle the headline is taking. See if you can find other headlines about the same event and compare them. And always, always remember, the structure itself is part of the story.
So the next time you face that wall of news, you won't just see a random list of stories anymore. You'll see a structure. You'll see the choices that were made,
And understanding that is the first real step to truly understanding the news. So the real question is, what will you see?